For any of those who might have joined us live or getting ready to get started, will be just a few moments. Director Green, we are live streaming and we are off mute whenever you want to call the meeting to order.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We are live streaming and recording. So I'd like to welcome everyone to the Children's Services Council of Leon County's Family Resource Center Management Invitation to Negotiation Team Public Meeting. The time is now 11:45 a.m. and I'll call the meeting to order. I will ask Ms. Clay to call the roll.
Frank Shaw.
Here.
Rob Renzi.
Here.
Paul Mitchell.
Here.
Christy Henry.
Present.
Amanda Douglas.
Present.
And everyone is here. Staff present for the record: Sika Rose Green, Holly McPhail, Dina Snyder, Jacinta Clay, and Prisha Malone. Now we will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So we're gonna a motion to approve the agenda with the swapping of 4 and 5. At public's request.
And I will second the motion.
The swapping of 4 and 5.
Correct.
So it has been moved by Rob Renzi and seconded by Paul Mitchell to accept the agenda with the change of swapping FRC management ITM proposal final review with general public comment. All those in favor, let me say this, if there's no dissension, we can approve by consensus. Okay, very good. So now we will move to number 4, FRC management ITM proposal final review. I will turn it over to Holly McPhail, our procurement manager.
Thank you, everyone, for going through this process with you. Sometimes in an ITN process, there's big gaps between the final closed strategy session and the open public meeting. But I want to thank you for agreeing, being willing to do these sessions back to back. The task before you today is to determine a recommendation by consensus to present to the Children's Services Council Governing Council on an action to take forward, whatever that action may be. That could be to approve the best and final proposal as received, to make a recommendation for a revised version, to force a collaboration, to also reject all. Any of those recommendations are available to you. Your final recommendation, as you discuss here today, should be based on the following factors. If you do choose to move any vendor forward, you should consider their demonstration of their prior relevant experience and their overall professional experience of that vendor at providing the proposed services as outlined in the invitation to negotiate. You should consider their ability and their approach as they defined it in meeting the specific goals of the FRC management ITN. You should also consider their ability and approach to providing the proposed services, including and maybe even really focusing in on the collaborative partnerships required by this model. And finally, the pricing. You are not bound to select the lowest bidder. You are tasked with creating the best value option for the Children's Services Council of Leon County. And that best value is what brings the greatest overall benefit to not only the council as an organization, but to the taxpayers of this community. With that, I would like to turn over discussion of the final proposals and final closed strategy session outcome to our lead negotiator, Mr. Rob Renzi.
So I'm doing what?
Right, so just kind of a highlight of where we landed, and kind of where you think that the recommendation will be.
Okay, so this is our third or fourth meeting, and after today's negotiation and follow up with the vendors, this is where I believe the committee has landed, and I'm sure we'll take a vote after this.
Yeah, so you can present that, then we can open it up for discussion and clarification. Then we'll go into general public comment before actually making the formal recommendation.
So we have chosen Children's Home Society to be the lead contracted agency with subcontracting for child mental health and child screenings from Whole Child Leon in a step-by-step sort of, forget what I'm, proof of concept contract. The first one being approximately 9 months, where the first center would be opened up in this location. During that time, the other locations that are in the proposals would be evaluated, screened, advisory councils from those communities established with staff being paid by Children's Home Society for individuals that reside in each one of those proposed communities during that 9-month process. Children's Home Society and the community, along with CSC, will decide which community is most ready to open the first center. And a second, or the contract renewal, will involve Children's Home Society working with CSC to open the center as determined by those communities most ready. There will be mandated technical assistance from the National Center and working side by side with CSC to ensure staff from those communities are engaged and paid from each one of those communities in the proposals. Did I get it all?
The only thing I might add is when the opening the new one was being evaluated, it would be evaluated on need and demand. Because those are two separate things.
Correct.
Any additional comments related to the proposal before we consider public comment or formally adopting a recommendation?
I think that it's really important also to state that the community readiness aspect will be based upon standards already adopted by the national model, and that that will be provided for in the context of the budget for the agency that gets the that is selected as the vendor.
Additional comments?
And I think it's also good to add that, excuse me, each of these proposals or vendors have very unique strengths. And I think by merging the two and bringing out the best in both of them will give us the best value of an FRC from both vendors.
And the only thing I would add is we did make a point in the budget that to set aside money in those contracts when we open the FRCs, whether it's the pilot or the other, that those agencies set aside money to bring paid other providers to the center, not volunteers, not work for free, but in each one of their budgets to subcontract with grassroots providers to provide services in each one of the communities that we open.
One a final point is, Holly, in your opening remarks, you talked about a collaborative effort. That's what an FRC is it's a collaboration of many organizations. How nice that we are at groundbreaking as we're talking about this, the two entities that actually bid on this are starting with collaboration. With, you know, one, you need a lead entity with Children's Home Society doing that, but working with Old Child Leon, and the two entities' willingness to do it, it gives me hope for, you know, what these FRCs will ultimately turn out to be, if in fact collaboration is important, and I think it is.
Any other discussion?
Okay, that will conclude our final proposal review, and I'll turn it back over to Director Green.
Right, so we will move on to number 5, which is our general public comment. I'll ask Ms. Clay if we have any person signed up for general public comment.
Yes, we have public comment from Mr. Whitfield Leland.
Mr. Leland. Welcome. Good morning.
First of all, I want to say thank y'all. I wasn't expecting that. But I do think that it says a lot about the intentions that we are trying to, what we're trying to do in our communities as far as these two entities. I do have a slight concern about when we say people that live in the community. Let's make sure that they really live in the community, because we have some people that represent community. And being on the streets and listen to a lot of these people, a lot of things that I see being brought forth is not what I'm hearing on the streets. So I think it's a great opportunity to get them involved, but also rolling it out, let's make sure that these communities understand what we're doing. Like, we ain't just putting some out there and say, hey, this is what we got going on. Explain like what their role gonna be, how they're gonna affect their community, because at the end of the day, it's a lot of them feel like, well, I say this, but they ain't gonna listen. You know, my opinion don't really matter. You hear that a lot. So rolling it out, let's educate them on like what is the end game, not what we finna do, but what is the end game, so that their visions can come inside what we trying to see. Because if we ain't got them, it ain't gonna work regardless. You know, that's the community. And some communities may seem ready, but really not ready. So we got to really, you know what I'm saying, make sure, I think, tying in what happens in the rec centers too in those areas, not just, you know what I'm saying, to see that type of activity, you know what I mean? So I love it, but we got to be intentional and making sure that these people in this community understand what we're doing, so that they won't be like, oh, here goes just another program. You know what I'm saying? The more that they know, the more that they go. They're activated, but mentality. Yeah. So I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all, and y'all have a nice day.
Thank you so much, Ms. Leland. Ms. Clay, do we have any more public comment?
There's no more public comment.
All right. So before we move to the final adoption of the recommendation, I do want to address Mr. Leland's point, because one thing I want to convey that was communicated from this negotiation team is that those community persons that we will ask the entity to hire will be vetted through our team to ensure that in fact they are a part of the neighborhood, that they will help to galvanize and determine the readiness. So I did want to add that, because we heard you loud and clear, and it was a part of the talks and negotiations. So with that, we don't have any more public comment. we will move to the recommendation of action to present to the governing council. What I will ask is for Ms. McPhail to repeat what that recommendation is, and then we will do a roll call vote with each team member to record your preference.
So the recommendation by the Family Resource Center Management IT and Negotiation Team is to select Children's Home Society of Florida as the lead contracted agency, with a provision to include mandatory subcontracting with Whole Child Leon for the provision of youth mental health services and comprehensive childhood screening, that they establish a proof of concept site at the CSC Leon location located at 2002 Old St. Augustine Road, that the initial contract will be for a period of 9 months with an opportunity to renew, and that another key component of their first contract would be to complete neighborhood readiness assessments at proposed locations using national model standards for the completion of those assessments, and engaging neighborhood leaders that are paid and vetted, that are paid through the contract and vetted by CSC Leon, and that any subsequent contracts would be based on the needs and demands of those assessments. Additionally, the initial contract will include mandated coaching from national model advisors, and that will be required throughout the process and any subsequent renewals, and that the budget must include paid service provision by neighborhood and grassroots providers to those neighborhoods.
The only thing I didn't hear was advisors.
Oh, sorry, I had that in the neighborhood leaders, so I will change that to be the neighborhood leaders will assist with the assessment and the establishment of advisory councils.
Yes.
In each neighborhood.
All right. So with that addition, I will ask Ms. Clay to call the roll.
Frank Shaw,
Yes.
Rob Renzi,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell,
Yes.
Christy Karen,
Absolutely.
Amanda Douglas.
Yes.
This recommendation will move forward. We thank you for your service. And Ms. Green, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yes, so we do thank you for your service, and before we adjourn, we would like to offer the negotiation team members an opportunity to make member comments. I'm just gonna start at the beginning and work our way around. So Mr. Shaw?
I'm real happy with it. That's all I gotta say.
Mrs. Douglas?
Well, I would like to say, I thank you for the opportunity to allow the Leon County citizens to really listen in on this concept and allow us the opportunity to negotiate, be a part of the negotiating process to ensure that it goes smoothly, and to really help you and the community find that family resource center to meet the needs of the community. But I'm glad of the outcome. I'm glad to be a part of this process, and I look forward to the future and see what it brings.
Mr. Renzi?
Just thank the team members. I think from the start, where I don't think we were very happy, to the end where I think we all were on the same page. From very different perspectives, I think we got what is best for the community.
Thank you. Mrs. Henry?
I just want to congratulate staff on pulling together perfect negotiation strategy team. I think that the minds and the hearts that are in this room has guaranteed that the people of Leon County are empowered by this process. It's scary to think of what's going to happen when you have Team Southside, a Team Frenchtown, and Team Highway 20 Fort Brady coming together to figure out what the needs and what the impact is going to be for their own community. That, I think, gives me absolute goosebumps, is the realization of the dreams and the work of a lot of folks, good folks in this community. So, and I think that was the goal of the creation of this referendum in the first place. So I can see right now the promise of it being carried out in this small step, in this small way. So I look forward to seeing the outcomes and seeing the community gather around impact.
Thank you. And Mr. Mitchell?
So for a little more than 2.5 years, I've sat on the Children's Services Council, and we have certainly had bumps in the road. And some of those bumps I've accepted, some I've been frustrated with. This process, how we got to where we are today, starting with the evaluation team that was assembled, a remarkable group of people, of which I just sat there going, oh, these people are so smart. To the negotiation team, the folks that are in this room, who likewise are so smart and bring something completely unique to the table just by their presence here. And then the next step, the full Children's Services Council, which likewise is incredibly unique, filled with very smart people who kind of all share one thing in common. That is, we're just trying to take the generous resources that this community has offered and make a difference in the lives of kids and their families, and do it in a way that is respectful to the families we're trying to help, as well as the families who are giving of their resources. This has been, again, 2.5 years from start to finish. And it goes back to the initial ITM where we rejected all. This whole process has been remarkable. And I am so incredibly proud of where we are today, and very, very hopeful, again, because of the collaboration of the two entities and the communities that they're going to serve. I am incredibly hopeful that this will be money really well spent. So thank you guys all for your participation, and I can't wait to vote yes on the 21st.
Awesome. So again, on behalf of the council, on behalf of staff, we'd like to not only thank our evaluation team that worked prior to you all gathering, but you all, because this is a lot of work. It was a lot of reading, and there were 2 applicants. So that cannot go without saying. I also want to take an opportunity to speak out into the blogosphere and say your volunteering is so important, and this is why. So please feel free to go to our website, www.cscleon.org. Scroll down, put your name in there, your email address, tell us you're interested in serving on these types of panels, because the community absolutely should have a voice in how the community money is being spent. Want to thank the staff. And if there is nothing else, this recommendation will come before the council's full meeting on December 21st, 4:00 here in this building. And all hearts and minds being clear,